Hey people, it's Niles talking, and this is a Black Heroes video. So the source I'm using is medium.com. So freedom fighter and saint of Senegal, Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba Mabake. I'm not sure if I'm gonna pronounce that right, I'm sorry. Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba Mabake, or Ahmadou Bamba, was born in 1270 AH or 1853 into a family of Qadiri scholars from the line of Sheikh Abdul Qadiri al-Jilani. He was the child of a Sayyid father and a Sayyid mother. Senegal at the time was under French colonial rule, governing smaller kingdoms throughout the country. His father was the most well-respected Qaidi in his kingdom, erecting several Islamic schools, and his mother was known for her effortless service to the community as well. As a child, he preferred imitating his father in his devotional acts while having no desire to play with other children. He spent the entirety of his youth in worship, studying the various Islamic sciences and teaching others. With his father passing in 1882 and the end of the armed resistance against the French, Ahmadou Bamba founded the Mouridia Brotherhood order, focusing on the Quran, Sunnah, the tenets of Sufism, a calling of society back to traditional Islam. This movement would slowly become the most effective weapon in battling the devastating social effects of imperialism. Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba's newly founded group, calling to traditional and prophetic Islamic ideals, the Mouridia, uniting the Senegalese under a common banner of faith, with emphasis on spiritual rectification, love of Allah and the Messenger. He also stressed the importance of earning permissible incomes in the lives of Muslims to counter the beliefs of some of the Muslims at the time, who deemed working for an income unnecessary. The Senegalese began to flee in larger and larger numbers every year to take from Ahmadou Bamba. Being a luminary and spiritual visionary, Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba noticed the failure of the majority of military resistance against the encroaching European powers seeking control of Africa. Like all the major Sufi luminaries of the past, he found the oppression of the Senegalese as a symptom of the spiritual diseases that were present among the Muslims. As the Sheikh Mouridia Brotherhood continued to attract large numbers, it emerged as a formidable resistance to French imperialism. The Mouridia were no longer just a religious revivalist movement, but a social revolution. The Senegalese Medina Munawara Touba. In 1887, Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba founded Touba, Arabic for felicity and the name of a tree in paradise, in a state of transcendence while sitting under a lone tree in the desert. He envisioned a pilgrimage of his followers to this city that would mimic the hijrah of the Prophet's followers to Medina so that Islam could flourish. Here, the return to traditional Islamic life from colonial alienation and centralization of the Mouridia movement would occur. With the principles he established, Touba soon became a flourishing spiritual and financially bustling city, exporting crops and the now famous Café Touba coffee. It would be from this West African Medina that the Sheikh's teaching was spread to the rest of Senegal. The Muslim Gandhi of Senegal. And I think that's an insult. He predated Gandhi. He wasn't someone following him. Martin Luther King followed Gandhi's teachings. But this is another thing. Just like as I said, other videos, there was one about the Black Bruce Lee. Even though Bruce Lee did not fight competitively, so he was beyond Bruce Lee. But anyway, let's keep going. Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba Mabake is most well remembered by his Sufi resistance against the French. While some of the Tijani leaders of Senegal were calling to arms against the intruding French, Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba maintained an unfazed approach where he continued inviting the people to Allah rather than struggling for independence. The Mouridia were to focus on their worship, reading of sacred texts, and Ahmadou Bamba strongly emphasized grudgeless and prophetic interactions with the colonizers. Finally, Ahmadou Bamba's followers growing at an alarming rate, the French considered Ahmadou Bamba a threat to their rule over Senegal. They feared a rebellion. In 1895, the French took Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba to trial on accounts of raising an army against the state. Although adamantly against violence, Ahmadou Bamba made his desire for a Muslim Senegal clear. As a result, he was exiled to Gabon in Central Africa in hopes of culling the growth of the Mouridia, the French believing that doing so would help the Senegalese forget the impeccable service of Ahmadou Bamba. However, his exiles only fueled legends of miraculous survival stories of escaping torture, deprivation, and attempted executions at the hands of the French. He returned in 1902 only to be exiled again for another 4 years to the deserts of Mauritania, where he was honored by the ascetics and scholars. During his exiles, he continued composing poems in praise of God and the Messenger in worship, writing books on fiqh, aqidah, tafsir, and the like. The French, realizing their attempts to destroy Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba had backfired, brought the Sheikh back to Senegal in 1907. To their dismay, his popularity, influence, and the amount of followers were greater than ever. Still considering him a threat, the French kept him under house arrest for the remainder of his life, away from his family and the city he created. In 1919, he was accepted by the French administration and given award of the Knight of the Legion of Honor. He refused to wear the medal on account of materialism. And this is another thing. you see all these black celebrities and other fake black heroes taking the accolades of these governments that treat black people like garbage. He knew exactly what it was and he refused to take it. All these things, like here in the UK, I think knighthoods and OBEs, people like Benjamin Zephaniah refused it because he knew what it came with it and all the atrocities committed against his people in the country's name. The legacy of Serigen Touba, Holy Man of Touba, I'm sorry again if I mispronounced it. Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba passed away in 1927 without having seen the French leave his country. He was successful, however, in his pacifist revival of the Senegalese Islamist identity. He was buried in Touba, where the great mosque of Touba was built. Today, the city of Touba is home to nearly 1 million inhabitants. All avenues of sin are prohibited in the city. The city attracts millions more during the Grand Magal, a celebration of the beginning of the exile of Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba that helped the Senegalese Islamic revival to boom. During this several-day celebration, lectures are given, Quran is read, and group recitations of these poems are performed, similar to Mawlid celebrations. A large proportion of Senegal follows the Muridia order, and Muridia communities exist all around the world today. In a poem dedicated to Touba, Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba wrote, "My Lord has blessed me with a place that rid me of all the obstacles the minute I entered it." Okay, this is a bit... okay, I'll just keep reading. It is a part of traditional Sunni Aqidah to believe in the miracles of the awliya. While some approval, I was not. Here are a few of the numerous miracles of Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba that his murids accept. Nevertheless, such stories are worthy lessons in themselves, whether true or not. In what is reported to be his greatest physical miracle, Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba was in chains in transit on a boat to Gabon. When requesting to pray, he was denied. He broke through his chains and jumped off the boat to find a prayer mat floating on the water. He began praying on it and returned to ship when he finished. French accounts of this event even exist, similar to the account of Jesus walking on water. He was said to survive being thrown in a furnace by the French and drank tea with the soul of the prophet in it, similar to the story of Abraham, and when thrown into a den of hungry lions, was able to make the lions fall asleep, similar to the power of Solomon. His light was considered so radiant that he often covered his face as to not overwhelm others. Now, disclaimer, this is, talking a bit about religion, so some things are a bit more, in the hearsay section rather than things we know for sure, but we'll just keep reading. As he himself said, his miracles would be found in his poems praising Allah and the Messenger. His poems weighed in total about 7 tons worth. That's how much he wrote. He ascribed virtues to certain poems. Some poems were said to have powerful habit-altering effects when recited frequently. Touba has become a flourishing city of remembrance of God, which is also in the most financially stable city in Senegal. The city's administration has even been asked for financial assistance from the country's government. Within 100 years, his Tariqa spiritual path has become one of the largest in West Africa, with several more communities through Europe and America. His mother reported no pain during pregnancy and found him sitting in his dad's prayer area as a child. His parents said he would cry when hearing impermissible musical instruments. He was well known among the traditional scholars of the Ummah at the time, including Imam Yusuf al-Nabahani in Lebanon, and the scholars of Hijaz who asked him to make dua when the House of Saud took power in the Arabian Peninsula. Imam Yusuf al-Nabahani dreamt he was told that Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba was the greatest of poets alive. The Imam composed a poem in the praise of Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba. The following is a line: "Whoever has missed a chance opportunity to meet Ahmad al-Mukhtar and also the Qadim of the Mukhtari, Ahmadou Bamba is someone who has lost." While he previously took ijazah and allegiance by with scholars of other spiritual paths, those same teachers ultimately gave him allegiance, the classic case of the student surpassing the teacher. Muhammad ibn Mu'ala, an eminent Moorish mystical poet, said about him, "There is but kindness in his sayings, but peace and nobility in his dwellings." Sheikh Sidia Baba, one of the premier scholars of Mauritania, said after his death, This man is an ocean. God has given him as much science and knowledge as he gave foam to the sea. His kindness resounds deeply in the world. He has no shortcoming if it is not only is to do good, if it is not to do good. When he appears, wisdom can be seen. Anton GMA Lascelles, who initially wanted to strike Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba, said in 2019, Sheikh Bamba certainly holds inner power whose source cannot be grasped by reason, and his capacity to arouse sympathy cannot be explained. It would appear that he possesses a prophetic light, a divine secret, similar to what we read in the history of the prophets and their people. This one, however, distinguished himself by purity of heart, by kindness, by magnanimity of heart and soul, and love of good for both friend and foe. These are qualities for which his predecessors could have envied him, irrespective of their great virtue, piety, and prestige. luminous enlightenments of the Sheikh. My religion is love of God. Allah led me to Muhammad. So Allah led me to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam could lead me back to Allah. When they put the chains on me, Allah opened the doors of mystery for me. The only weapons I will use to fight my enemies are the pen and ink that I used to write my weapons in the glory of the Chosen One. The fact that I was granted the privileged rank of servant of the Prophet and the book is a true bounty from Allah, the bestower, and not my will. If you call me anything except Abdullahi or Qadim al-Rasul, you have insulted me. If you really aspire to attain lofty spiritual degrees, follow closely these recommendations of mine. I advise you to strive hard for knowledge, show gratitude toward Allah, be sincere in worship and generosity. I recommend you to practice patience and abstinence. Do avoid worldliness and excessive sleeping. Stay aside from aught that entails immorality and corruption. The motive of my departure to exile is the will of God to elevate my rank and to make me of the mediator between my people and the Prophet. I have spoken to you, you have heard my words, I have left written scripts to your attention. I have acted under your eyes, my life is my message. Why is Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba so important? Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba was able to single-handedly set up a self-sufficient city to emulate the city of Medina at the time of the Prophet. He turned his colonizers into friends. He was a mujtahid and was given the title of the Mujaddid of Western Africa. He was a mystic and a brilliant poet who founded an influential and powerful Sufi order that continues to grow today. Not many people are capable of emulating every aspect of the Sunnah as Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba did. He wanted the best not only for Muslims, but for all humanity. He authored countless books and thousands of poems in praise of Allah and the Messenger, with each poem having specific spiritual virtues. He preferred obscurity, yet was soon referred to with privilege as Qadim al-Rasul, the servant of the Prophet. By scholar and layman alike, he emphasized a daily life surrounded around one's prayer, awrad, litanies, recitation of the Quran, seeking knowledge, prayers upon the Prophet, being the humble service of others, giving charity, receiving halal income, embodying all acts of worship in the Sunnah, and inculcating prophetic characters in oneself and in one's interactions with one's enemies. And I just want to point to what he was talking about, making halal income and a good, decent source of income. Isn't that quite a difference to a lot of these celebrities who are willing to do anything for money, say anything, back up any cause, no matter how repugnant, promote anyone, no matter how disgusting a human being they are? Imagine if many of the figures that are now put forward in black people's public space actually did that. I will only make money that is halal, or, from a good moral source that doesn't involve hurting people or doing despicable things. What's the word? What's that line from Tupac's one of his songs? I made a G today, but you made it in a sleazy way, selling crack to the kids, but I gotta get paid. His impeccable character, brilliance, and piety made him the most prominent scholar of West Africa in his time. Such defined his spiritual station, which cultivated in his exile, that ultimately led to a spiritual victory over imperialism. In his poem, The Quest for Healing, he writes, O you the good, by excellence, the preserver. O you who heal and who holds man's destiny in your hands. Let your blessings descend where harm exists, and let there be good where evil prevails, and let there be generosity where avarice prevails. Let wealth be showered in poor places, and let there be gratitude where ingratitude prevails. Let there be gratitude where ingratitude prevails. The above summarizes the message of Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba. May Allah be pleased with Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba Mabake, allow us to benefit by him in both worlds, and may we all be servants of the Messenger. So anyway, I'm going to leave this link in the description. It has a whole bunch of links where people have used as their source. So anyway, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.